What if I told you this was made mainly with Q-tips and rubbing alcohol? Would you believe me? Well, today I'm going to kind of work backwards here to start. I've already created this small little piece, and I'm going to show you how I made a bigger piece here later in the video. But I've already added the trees to start, and here I am using my ink, my nib quill pen, which I'm bringing some details in with the ink, going around all the details I have. I'm going to show you how I made these trees with the Q-tip here in a second, but I wanted to show you the final, almost the final project, and this is kind of like a small one I did before I did the larger one. And here's kind of the long version of the small picture I did. I'm going to go back and forth, up and down, so you can see the details I added to the tree trunks. And the ink is the leaves that I used. Anyway, we'll go right into the larger one now, and I'm just going to bring in a very light blue on top of Bristol board paper. And I found that the Bristol board works really well with the rubbing alcohol, better than even watercolor paper. So I'm just going to cover this surface with the blue, and I will show you how we bring in the other color here in just a second. This is a clip that kind of connects to the other videos I've been making lately, which is merging abstraction with realism. And I've been doing some portraiture, some landscape. This is going to be another landscape today, but this is just one more thing to add to your repertoire using the rubbing alcohol and the Q-tip to bring in some pretty solid shapes in terms of a tree trunk. Okay, there we have, just about have it here, and I'm going to let this dry before I go to the next step. Okay, we've broken away and it has dried. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a mixture of a dark blue with a little bit of brown to get kind of the darkest blue I can. This technique really works best if you have something light underneath and dark on the top. Ideally, something with a warm color on the bottom with a cool color on top. But I want to stick with blues with this to give kind of a moody application. As a kid, I always enjoyed walking out in the woods. The woods always seemed like a maze to me, almost like corn. Of course, when I was a kid, you could still walk through corn. Today, there's this packed so tightly, you really can't do that. So woods are still a place of being able to walk in nature and feel almost enveloped by it. And that's really kind of the idea I've had with this piece. I wanted to bring in a tightly wound forest. And now I'm going to go to the rubbing alcohol. I just showed you the bottle. And I'm going to make a little bit of dish for myself off camera. And I'm going to dip my Q-tip into the rubbing alcohol. And here I am still applying it. Okay, here we go. Took a little time to get that in the cup. But anyway, I just kind of dip my Q-tip in and I start bringing the shapes in, the lines. You can see very quickly it takes away the upper part of the dark paint and you can see the light blue I started with. But in the process, it really gives some really nice ridges, almost like a bark to it just naturally. And this, once again, the Bristol paper I think works best to get these ridges. I used other types of paper before making this clip, but I found a slick surface works a little better and gets the details, or at least the detail that I want on these trees. I've tried this with students as well, and there's always a mood. It has a kind of a moody feel to it. No matter what you do, portraits can look really interesting with this technique, and I'm going to try to make some of those coming up. But try this out. Once again, I'm just doing trees. I start wide at the bottom, get thinner at the top. I'm trying to bring some trees to the foreground, some of the thinner trees in the background. So just have fun with this, and I think just keeping the idea of going thick to thin with the branches will take you a long way. Okay, I'm going to pull back here, and this is the dried version. And you can see all the really wonderful marks and things, kind of the smudges that's been left behind from the drying. You can see the swooping lines in the background, which I really like as well with this technique. Okay, I'm going to go back to my ink now, my acrylic ink, and my quill nib pen, I should say. I'm just going to dip it in, and I'm going to just start doing some detailing to the trees. And I showed you this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to show you again on the big piece. And basically, I'm going in and just kind of blocking in some areas, going over some of the lines, how the ink dried, or I should say the acrylic paint dried. And I'm applying the ink on top of that. Found that when I walk back in the woods now as an older person, I still have the same sorts of feelings I had as a kid. So that's kind of neat as I've worked away at this piece. Okay, just adding some little dots and circles and squiggles in there as well. And I'm going to pull back now and show you what the ink part looks like. So you can see the ink has definitely helped and solidified certain parts of the tree, really brought that bark out. All right, now I'm going to bring some of the leaves in, and I went back to the acrylic paint that I started with, but I'm mixing some whites, some blues, some greens, and I'm going to kind of focus on that. That initial white I put on there is a little too white, so I'm going to go back in with blues and greens and kind of get that down a little bit. But you can mix these quite a bit and go I'm just using squiggles and dots as the leaves. I'm not trying to paint individual leaves. The impression of this, you'll see it as I pull back here eventually. Okay, starting to bring some of this. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit here. I'm going to have you take an overview. This is what the end of the leaves are like. Once again, none of my paintings are ever fully done here on the video. I probably will go back into it later. And as that is dried, I'm going to bring in chalk pastel now to make this an absolute mixed media piece. So I'm going to use 3 different chalk pastels, a light blue, a darker blue, and a little bit of green as well, which I will bring in here in a second. I won't finish this all in one clip. A lot of times I go back in after the clip is done, and I will bring even more details to it. I may thicken the grass or add more to the bark, but I like to show you about 75–80% done, and that way it kind of gives you a insight into how I've added all these marks together to make it into a whole. Once again, if you've liked this video today, please subscribe, comment, like. By the way, I just passed 1,000 subscribers this week, which I'm very, very happy with. I want to thank everyone out there who has supported me in this endeavor and continue to support me. Anyway, here's the basic piece that I have right now. I may go back into it later, but I wanted to show you the overview with the grass and the leaves. Thanks again, everyone, for having 1,000 subscribers. I hope to continue bringing you more of these videos. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.